Hey guys, uh, just got back from the gym. Life is good. God is good all the time. While I was at the gym, I was listening to Brother McMurdo's video that he just posted that touched on a lot of things. And what I want to do is just take a a little piece of what he was talking about and maybe elaborate on it and elucidate some things that maybe we miss as a whole. Because I really do believe that a lot of times when people say things, they reflect, I can't tell you the number of times I've watched videos and it's reflected what I was thinking, and the number of times I've watched videos where it's reflected the problems I was trying to work through. So we need to understand we're all sharing the same problems. We really are. It's that's why certain comedians and stuff, actors and whatnot, become famous, politicians, is because they say what everyone's thinking. And I think it's true in this little community that we have too. I think a lot of times we just say what everyone is thinking, and that makes it a popular video, if you will, because someone pulls all the threads together and says it coherently, and now we know how to say it because someone came out and said it. Um, Getting back to the topic of this debating other Christians thing. Um, whatever. Yeah, debating other Christians. What I would say is, first of all, don't ever not speak about it. You know what I mean? Because what I found is people basically fall into three categories when it comes to this. The first category is the intellectual category, where they just are interested in proving that they're right. And you can put those on the scales of 1 to 10. Some people, they're just hell-bent on it, just proving that they're right. And some people are just like, I can defeat this argument easily, and it's just an intellectual exercise. The second category is people who just like to argue. That's and we all share numbers in these scales. You know what I mean? None of us is a perfect 10 and everything, and a perfect 0 and everything else. But there's some people who just you'll watch them argue for a position, and then come back and watch them later, and they're arguing against their original position. I'm not talking about people changing their point of view. I'm talking about these guys basically just argue. They play devil's advocate for everything. And the third category, which is what I think most of the people that I've encountered as the Unitarian type fellowship, are people who desperately want to share something. They want to. It's a thing of God, you have to understand. You have to understand. Just trying to bring people out of error. And I will say that's definitely the best spirit to do this type of thing in. But always don't be afraid to say something, would be my point. Just watch what you say and watch where the discussion is going. And that would bring me to my next point, which maybe this will help people in some sense, because I think sometimes we get caught up in our finite. Like, we put the burden on ourselves. The burden is not on us to convince people. The burden that we have is the burden of love, and that is to always stand for the truth as best as we can articulate it at any given time. But I would like to point out some things. I look at Jesus, he's like the great bail bondsman. You know, um, we're all in a prison, whether we like it or not. We're all headed to jail. And here's this bail bondsman, Jesus, that he says, I'll pay to get you out. And we say, okay. And then he says, of course, there's a payment involved. When someone acts on your behalf, there's always a payment involved. But the unique thing about Jesus' payment is that all he asks is that you share with other people that he's willing to pay their bail. That is pretty much the summation of our calling. That God the Father, who in a sense will be the warden when all this comes down, is coming. That day is coming. And I've been given authority to run the prison. And I will gladly let anyone out that wants to get out. If you want to get out, I will gladly open the door and let you out. The only commission I give you is this, is let the other prisoners know that I'm willing to let them out. Jesus' yoke is truly light. It's truly liberating. And it's not an exercise in, oh man, I got to do this now. I got to do that. You really say, this is not work in the sense of other works. This is work in the sense of liberation. It's walking in freedom and liberty and shaking off the bonds of intellectualism and materialism and things that just have no value, that cling so tightly around our necks. We just don't, and what worse type of prisoner is there than the one who's incarcerated willingly? And we have to understand, in the intellectual mind, those can be very hard bonds to break. But I would like to throw this little caveat out there as far as the type of debating topic goes. And that is, have faith in God when you're having these discussions with people. Don't put that burden on yourself. Don't fall into the trap of what I call modern day evangelicalism, as that they have to plant the seed, they have to water the seed, they have to tend the plant, and they have to collect the fruit and the flower all at one time. They have to do that. That is their modern thing. And that's why we have so many Sunday Christians, is because they push this type of doctrine. They push this idea that everything has to happen right now. We need to have the wisdom to know that that is not the case, and it's not the truth. Everything does not have to happen right now. God is at work. And I believe in two things is the whole point of this video. It boils down to two things. Number one, pray for them. Pray not for what you're saying. Pray for what God's will would be. And yes, there is absolutely nothing wrong with asking, saying, Lord, I'm coming to you first. That is the whole ideal of how we live. And I'm asking you this as someone who's trying to serve you. Help them. Help them see. Don't put that burden on you. That burden is not on you. The burden of the truth is on the individual and the truth giver. So there's nothing wrong with praying to Jesus and asking him, weigh on this man's heart if that's your will. And I would say that because think about it. It may not be that person's time. Imagine a situation where you get into a exchange with a YouTuber, and he's a Trinitarian. And right now he's just some guy. Let's say he's going to seminary. He's just some guy going to seminary. And you say what you got to say. You do what you got to do. And he doesn't change his point of view. Well, those things are there now in his head. They're rolling around. The Spirit can reference them now because they've been spoken to him. And it may not be 10 or 15 years later that this person starts to run a congregation or something. And then those seeds are brought back to weigh on him. Because I think it takes a very twisted and self-centered mind to be able to resist God. I mean, if Jesus starts pouring out the Spirit on someone, I believe it can be resisted, but I think it'd have to be so deep. You'd have to be so rooted in yourself to be able to resist it in the first place. But give God that benefit of the doubt that he knows what he plans to do with this person. And it may not be his time. It may not. It may be his time, and he's just so twisted inside that he can't even admit the most simplest of facts. Well, there's not much you can do about that. But on the other hand, if God's willing, remember that phrase in James, if God's willing, convert this man to a deeper understanding of the truth. And if not, God may have a reason for that. He may be waiting. He may be waiting to pour his Spirit out on him when he's in a position to carry out the will of the Father. Remember in the book of Mark, where they walk up on the blind man and ask Jesus what he's done to deserve this, because it was their thinking. And remember that too with brothers, before you go down that road, before you say, you know, this guy must be pretty twisted to not even acknowledge the simplest of truth. That may be for the glory of God. God may have hardened that man's heart, fed him this information to bring him to a place to become a tool for his own dissemination. He may never convert, but he may repeat things that you have said, and bring it up with brothers when someone says something about, oh, the Unitarian position or whatever, and he says, yeah, I encountered some of those guys, and this is what they say, and it's totally inadequate. But then he's going to repeat what you said, and that may be used by God to trigger other people, and they say, that's pretty. That makes a lot of sense, actually. I need to investigate this. So what I'm saying is, don't put that burden on yourself. It is not on us. It is not our burden to convert people. It is our yoke to share and to show the quality of a Christian character. We do have a lot of jobs to do, but desperately converting people is not one of them. We give it our best. We tell the truth as best that we can, and we do it in the proper spirit. And it seems that a lot of people in this discussion are putting that burden on themselves. Like, man, I have to make sure that they know that it's not on you. That's not your job. Conversion is not your job. That's the work of the Spirit. And remember, you may, in fact, be the pivotal voice that does lead to someone's conversion. It just may not be his. Or it may be his 5 years from now. So have faith in God that he is at work. And keep sharing. Just be mindful when they try to drag you down this path. Be mindful. That's all I would say. It is your job to speak up, absolutely. But be mindful of where the conversation's going. If they're dragging you down a path that you don't want to go, but you end up going, so don't try and justify it internally. Just say, brother, I see what you're saying, and I appreciate the time, but the spirit of this conversation is just going down. It's going to a place I don't want to go. Here are my final thoughts on this stuff. There's great, graceful ways to exit a conversation, and the mere fact any brother is trying is a testament to them trying to share the faith. Just make sure within those 3 categories that I listed earlier that you're in that category of you need to understand the truth. There's so much at stake to understanding the truth. And having that faith that God is going to use that information in the way that it's supposed to be used enables you to walk away from the conversation. It enables you not to put that burden on yourself and say they must convert. Now, if you fall into those other 2 categories, shame on you. Okay? Shame on you. And you need to work on that. You need to say, you know what? I'm kind of in a lifeless doctrine right now. I'm kind of just peddling this to be right. No. Seek God's advice. Pray for him. Say, ask Jesus to put pressure on that man for his will, for what it is that the Father wants out of that individual. There's nothing wrong with that. And prayer of a person, I was watching a study that they did. It was just one about prayer. But what they did find is that when people pray, parts of the brain of self-awareness begin to shut down. That's an amazing thing to me. That, and it's what I would expect to find. I would expect to find a biological system in place that we can manipulate, in a sense, and to pray, to become less aware of oneself and to become more aware of the things that we can't see and we can't comprehend. It's an amazing biological hardwired system that we have. So pray, shut down that personal awareness and become that part of that, what I call the God consciousness, the spirit that is out there for every man to interact with and receive wisdom and knowledge from. And just ask Jesus in that spirit, if it's your will, if it's God's will to bring this man over, do that. A prayer of a righteous man is a powerful thing. And I'm not sitting here calling myself righteous. I'm just making it the best that I can. But I would say keep that spirit in mind. Don't stay up at night, wrestling with these things. Have faith that God, it may be years down the road, But God will have a reason if that person wants the truth. And you know, I'd say 99% of people stand no shot at resisting the Spirit when it starts getting poured out on them because of your prayers or because of their own prayers. There's very few people, I think, that can actually just say, you know what, I don't want this Spirit in my life. Those people are truly evil, by the way. They're truly, you know, you could be a really messed up person, a screw up, and still have no shot at resisting the Spirit. But there's these other class of people who can absolutely resist the Spirit and shut it down. And those people are truly twisted. But I think most people, they're misled in a lot of ways. And yeah, they're slightly twisted in a sense. And I think we all have to wrestle with things like that. But have faith. Long story short, I'm going to keep this video short. Have faith that God will work in that person's life, and that should help you alleviate that burden of you feeling like you have to get your point. You know, you have to have faith in God. Say what you got to say, and it puts you in a powerful position to share the truth, because you're not going to go down that road. I don't have any reason to defend it or do this or do that, because you know what? I have faith in God. I have faith that I'm saying what the great bail bondsman Jesus wants me to say, that I'm extending an invitation from the kingdom to get out of prison for free. All he asks is that you love him in return, and that love is going to breed all these other actions. And leave it at that. Don't put that burden on yourself. You are not the Holy Spirit. You are not Jesus. You are not the person that can weigh on someone's heart. You're the person who becomes a living Bible. You are the person who points to Jesus within the Scriptures, who in turn points to the Father who exists outside of the Scriptures. It's a beautiful system. Just play your role. The yoke is easy. Just do what you're intended to do, and that is to be a light. God bless.